everyone. This is Dee Marley with the History Bards podcast, and today we have the great privilege of welcoming Victoria Waterman to the show today. And Victoria is a Historium Press author, and she just published this book with us. Oops, can you see it? There it is.
There it is.
And there it is. And it won the book cover of the year for the Coffee Pot Book Club. So everybody be sure and check this book out. But today we're going to be sure and hear from Victoria about her book and about her journey as a writer, and also some of the things that she's done to help market the book, which would be a great interest to a lot of authors out there. So Victoria, why don't you get started and tell us about you and your journey?
Well, thanks for having me, Dee. It's a privilege to be here, and I always love to share best practices. Learning and sharing is one of the best parts of this journey.
Yes.
In fact, that's been one of the most pleasant surprises, is meeting like-minded people who are more than willing to help. And I never knew those resources were available, let alone their willingness to assist and help me to accomplish my goals. So that's been fabulous. So the book is Who She Left Behind, and it is a historic fiction novel, largely based on my family's survival of the Armenian Genocide in 1915, and traveling to the United States, specifically Massachusetts and Rhode Island, and how their lives unfolded here in the United States. The night of the idea happened in May of 2015. I know the exact moment. I've always been an avid reader, and always knew that someday I would write a book. And I knew it would be about my family because there's so many stories there. I barely have to use my imagination to come up with something. There's so much there. And on this day, my husband and I were visiting graves of our dead relatives. That we inherited that task.
Yes.
And came to my Aunt Vicky's grave, for whom I was named. She died 2 weeks before I was born. We're the only relatives in this area to visit the graves. And imagine our surprise when we found flowers at her grave. And there were these white silk flowers that were dug in. And in that moment, I initially didn't think about this mystery, solving this mystery. It was more about, that's going to be my story. Who left those flowers?
Yes. That's perfect.
And so that's how it started. That is how it started. And once I started writing, I realized all of the holes in the story and in the history that I was not told about. And I learned this is a universal challenge among Armenian families, and my guess is many immigrant families who want to leave their trauma and their history behind. They didn't talk about it. And so I had these gaps of time and experiences that I didn't hear firsthand. And that's where the fiction part came in, the historical fiction. Because to me, it was very important that I kept the integrity of the fiction to be historically researched accurately. And a lot of it, because my grandparents were survivors and we all lived together, Armenian was my first language. I knew about the Armenian Genocide as early as I learned about Christmas. You know, it was just ingrained in part of our family. I was privileged to hear these stories firsthand, not only from them, but from their siblings as well. And so that is, largely how the story started. Now, once I started asking questions and researching, this is where I met genealogists. I never set out to do a genealogy, but I did. And in a genealogy, I learned about experts, and I will tell you, Facebook, when they say there is a group for everything,
Yes.
did I learn that? There is actually a Facebook group of the people who came from my grandmother's town, from
Wow.
from Armenia.
Oh, wow.
So, right, this is a global Facebook group. So
Yes.
between that, the Armenian genealogy Facebook group, so many other resources I tapped into and learned about how to fill in the blanks and get a sense of what this experience could have been like.
Right.
So when it came time to publish the book, I had this instant audience
Yeah.
and what I call to some extent low-hanging fruit because they were genuinely interested and supported me through this whole research process,
Mhm.
that they were very eager to see the finished product.
That's
So
great.
that was first and foremost
Yeah.
who I marketed in my marketing
And
plan.
that's great because that's one of the things that as editor of Historium Press, I try to emphasize is creating your audience ahead of time and, join groups, get your little fan base going so that whenever the book does come out, it's just like you said, it's right, it's already pretty much there. And one of my favorite things to say is about starting small fires because they spread. And, so if you start that small fire just like you did, and it has, gradually spread. I have to say this too, is that I didn't know a lot about the Armenian genocide until like years and years ago. My son got interested in the group System of a Down, and Serge Tankian is Armenian, and he is a huge advocate for the Armenian genocide. And so I kind of knew about it a little bit whenever you approached Historian Press. I was like, oh, this is great because, of knowing about it, about what my son was interested in. So it kind of was a perfect fit. Um, do you know that
That's
group, System of a Down?
I don't. I'm going to have to look that
You're gonna
up.
have to look him up because he's very, like I said, he's a huge advocate. And I have reached out to him about your book, so we'll see.
Oh, wonderful. That's
Yeah.
great. That's terrific. Great.
So tell
Great.
us a little bit more about your background as far as, because I know you've been on TED Talks, and just a little bit about your background and how you got to this, because you have a very nice way of presenting yourself as far as in your marketing, and how you got to that point.
Although I'm a rookie writer and I've never published a book before, I mean, how many times have I said that to you, Dee?
Yes.
I'm asking a question because I'm a rookie. But my background has led me to become a seasoned storyteller.
Mhm.
And that is largely because I worked in nonprofits and I worked in organizations where I advocated for advancement of women leaders and then followed later for inspiring girls. And through that, I experienced a lot of public speaking. And even if it weren't on the stage, I was always telling the story, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's on the stage, in a TED Talk, which was quite the experience. If
Yeah.
anybody wants to hear more about that, contact me. I will tell you.
Yes.
I think maybe the book was easier to write, but not that I am fearful of the stage, but it was a very prescriptive format, shall we say.
Yes.
And just learning to tell a story, the beginning, middle, and end
Uh-huh.
is something that I did really every single day.
Yeah.
And so that gave me a lot of confidence in going out there. I also have a reputation and a brand in this area of women's empowerment.
Mhm.
And I wanted to ensure that that voice would be in this book.
Yes.
And I feel very accomplished in the way that that unfolded.
Yeah, and and that's another key, is that knowing your audience that well. And I think
Right.
that is, that's Definitely. I've heard that, like, even with writers retreats and workshops that I've been to, that is like focused on about knowing your audience whenever you get ready to market. And it's very interesting how a lot of authors, it's a challenge writing the book, but marketing is a whole different beast.
Right. Right. It
And
sure is.
yeah, and trying to transform the artistic side of you into the business side of you. And because it has to become your book, your baby has to become your business, and
Right.
and marketing is part of it. So how has all of that helped you in the marketing aspect?
First of all, I will say there is never enough time in the day,
No,
ever.
that's for sure.
And my husband will say, I think you're free between midnight and 5 a.m., to do something. But
Yes,
I think that, and this is something I struggle with, is just accepting the amount of time and really managing that time and energy.
yes,
Because I could be doing this 24/7.
me
So
too.
we'll put that out there to anybody who's listening. For someone like me, I enjoy it, but it can be overwhelming.
Yeah,
And you have to know, what you're good at, what you're not good at,
right.
and just know yourself is the really way to look at it. But let's start with audience
Sure,
and how my approach to this. So I
sure.
had a multi-pronged approach,
Okay.
and I'm still in the middle of it.
Hmm.
So I had said to Dee, I think I want to be like the famous authors who come out first with the hardcover
Uh-huh.
and the e-reader, and not make the paperback available just
Right,
yet,
right.
because that will give us a chance to do a second launch and more marketing and so forth.
Yes,
I also knew my audience, which was, like I said, what I had called respectfully, the low-hanging fruit,
right.
which were all of the researchers who helped me to write this.
Hmm.
And then the Armenian population. They are going to read this book one way or another. There aren't enough books that they can get their hands on to
Right.
read something like this.
Yes.
And I knew that for them to have a signed copy and to hear the author was equally as meaningful as reading the book.
Right.
So that is why I started with the hardcover. And I started with my book launch was a really big deal. And I had a dear friends of mine who offered to host it. So I was very lucky for that.
Hmm.
And it was held at a local historical museum that I was able to tap into for a lot of the research. But it was really a big gala. It was a big deal. Following that, I have been busy on many Sundays going to local Armenian churches speaking after their fellowship about the book.
Hmm.
And the story to that audience often is the making of the book and the journey of discoveries on my family and genealogy along the way. Because that audience sitting there, this is their story too.
Yes, absolutely.
This is their
Absolutely.
story.
Yeah.
There's not, you never know, but I was not prepared for the overwhelming feedback of people saying, that was my grandmother's story.
Oh,
Or others saying, my grandmother didn't talk much about that. I wonder how much of that was her story.
yeah,
And all kinds of variations there. This is deeply personal
it
for
is.
that audience.
Yes.
And that was phase one for me. And I'm still in that phase. I have
Yes.
Sundays booked, you know, through the spring.
Well, that's
And
wonderful, though. That's
it
absolutely
is,
wonderful.
it
Yeah.
really is. And so it is a labor of love. Again, this works for me. I enjoy doing these talks. I'm energized by doing these talks. I can sell books and ask for reviews and so forth. For me, this is in my area of comfort,
Right.
no question. So, phase two is more around the mass media.
Mhm.
So, these are people I don't know or I'm not connected with.
Yes.
This marketing plan is a little more vague for me and much more out of my comfort zone because I'm learning as I go.
Right.
But in doing that, we're going to launch the paperback
Hmm.
and the audio. And this will be appealing. It will be more affordable,
Right.
and it will be appealing to people without Armenian roots and people who love a good historical fiction about an era that they don't hear quite so much about,
Exactly.
with strong female protagonists, um, and so forth. So that's really what is coming up next. Now,
Yes.
with that, I know social media is a big part of this.
It really is.
And, that is not my strength or my expertise. My expertise on social media is Facebook with people I know and my contacts,
Uh-huh.
but reaching out through Instagram and other ways to find people I don't know, that's not my area of expertise. So,
Right.
having said that, I know that if I'm going to invest in resources, that is going to be where it is,
Yes.
in helping
Yeah.
with the
It
social
really is. And
media.
social media, especially if you look at the Bookstagram and the Book Talk, for TikTok, those are like huge.
Right.
So taking advantage of those avenues and finding that audience is really the key. And I think one of the things that in marketing, the old adage is if you see it 7 times, people will usually buy it. So, and it's the same way with social media. You have to be consistent. Otherwise, people are not going to stick with you. And you never know of which one of those posts, especially with like Book Talk or Bookstagram, especially with Book Talk, I'm going to say, is like you'll never know which one of those is going to really take off. I've
Yeah.
seen my different, videos on TikTok, which I'm hoping to take more advantage of this year. It's been interesting to see the ones where you have the more viewers than others, and you can learn from that. So it's definitely an avenue of learning and building. So I think that's great. And we'll help you along the way about the
I
social
know
media.
that. I'm counting on it. I'm counting on it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so another piece of advice I'd like to say, we're talking about
Sure.
our comfort zones as
Yes.
well, because sometimes I do need to take my own advice. And I learned this from the nonprofit industry, and that is feeling self-conscious about having your picture taken, being on video,
Yeah.
speaking out, speaking up, public speaking. I'm going to tell you, you got to get over yourself.
Thank you. I had to do that too.
You got to get over yourself and you have to take yourself out of it. And the
Yeah.
way I think I got to that place is that you have to think of yourself as the spokesperson for that mission. And the
Yes.
mission is your book.
Yes, absolutely.
So don't think about it as you. You're not doing a glamour shot. People aren't, it's
Make it
not
real.
about you.
Yeah, you
It's,
need to make it
make it
real.
real.
Yeah.
It's about, let's face it, whose voice is better to speak about the
Yeah.
mission, again, your book,
Hmm.
than yours,
Yes.
who's in whose voice this was written.
Yeah.
So you need to get over it. You have to get over it.
Yeah.
And once you start, and it's practice, practice, practice,
Hmm.
practice, you'll get better and you'll get more comfortable. But that's very
Absolutely.
important. But again, I give myself that advice because doing a TikTok video, I'm not even on TikTok. So I know that I have to listen to my own advice as I'm moving forward on this. I understand that. But when I look at the marketing, and Dee and I are working on this now,
Uh-huh.
there are there are so many avenues
So
that
many.
at some point, I have to focus
Yeah.
on where I want to be.
Right.
So another area for me is that because this is genocide education,
Mhm.
this could be considered curriculum for in high schools.
Oh, yeah.
There are several states who have the genocide education bill, I know that my area is one of them.
Wow.
And the schools are required to teach genocide education beyond the Holocaust. And so the Holocaust is one, they're required, but they also have to teach about the Armenian genocide, the Cambodian
Wow.
genocide,
Wow.
the Rwanda. There are a couple that some states are very specific. Others just say they have to teach about genocide. But these school systems are looking for resources. And so right now I'm searching for a teacher to write a teacher's guide. And this is where you have to know your limitations. I'm not an educator. I am not the best person to write a teacher's guide. So I'm looking for a teacher to do that for me. It
Oh,
will,
interesting. So me and you need to talk off of this because
yes, we'll have to
I
talk.
might have some resources for you
Good.
on
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where, so we're talking about that is another avenue, to go through. And that would be meaningful to me because oftentimes they want you to come and be a speaker,
Yes.
and you can do it on Zoom if it's not in your backyard or local. So I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it, stay tuned. Maybe we can do another podcast next year and I'll tell
Yes.
you how the whole social media exploration goes.
That would
But
be wonderful. That would
right
be
now,
absolutely.
you know, full confession, it scares me to death. So
Yeah.
stay tuned on that. To wrap up, what
Yeah.
I was saying is, um, know yourself. Think about your audience, who helped you along the way, who's really interested in this book, and then think broader of what other audiences this can fit into. And another thing I want to mention about paying it forward and
Yeah.
helping each other.
Yes. Thank you.
I think this is very important, and we're all busy, and I never knew the value of writing a review until I did this.
Yes.
So now I find that I write a review on Amazon and on Goodreads, whether or not I know the author, it doesn't matter. I just
Yes.
automatically do it because I never knew how important this was.
It really
And so
is.
I pay it forward as much as I can. Now, reading, everybody's busy. We're all reading our own genres and whatever else. So reading each other's books, and writing reviews is ideal. But even if you don't have the time for that, knowing about what people are writing about is very helpful. I'm on a number of Facebook groups. There's the book club, the fiction and friends, or the historical fiction book clubs, whatever they are.
Yeah.
They've got thousands and thousands and thousands
Yes.
of viewers. And every day people are writing saying, I'm looking for a book that's set in this time,
Yes.
or whatever else. Now, you can't promote yourself. These groups don't allow you to
Don't allow
promote
it.
yourself.
Right.
So this is where promoting each other's books,
Yes.
is very helpful.
Very
Somebody
helpful.
I saw recently wanted to know about the Russian Revolution. And I happen to know that one of the authors, wrote about this. And even if it's not exact,
Yeah.
comment on it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Say, I
Yeah.
recommend this book. So just knowing about other people's books, being able to respond, makes you the authority on reading. It positions you in that way.
Yes.
And it helps a fellow author.
Yeah.
And it might help the reader. It might help the person asking the question. Let's not forget that person. So it's
Absolutely.
really a win-win-win. So that's
It
another
is a
way of
win-win.
helping. If you find out little secrets or marketing tips or whatever, share them with
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah.
Even if you think they already know it, not everybody does.
Right.
I mean, I'm learning every day. I'm a student of this, and I welcome the advice.
Well, I appreciate it so much, Victoria, because I think we can all learn, and this is a constant learning process, throughout. It's going to be that way for the entirety of your writing career that you're going to be constantly learning. So I really do appreciate you sharing all those things. Those were spot on for the things that I want not just the Historium Press authors to know, but also the historical fiction community. And it goes really beyond that for any writer out there trying to find different ways of marketing. So I think that's what you did was just perfect for trying to help others. And I really do appreciate it.
Wonderful. I have one more thing that I forgot to
Sure,
mention
go
if we have
ahead.
a moment,
Yes.
and that is your website is important. And
Yes.
using your website effectively is important.
I'm glad you used the word effectively.
And I before I wrote the book, I wrote many blogs and I enjoyed it. And the blogs where I had a humorous take on it and whatever else. And it was fun writing for me. And I would post it on social media. So it has evolved into a newsletter, a
Yeah,
monthly newsletter that I
right.
send out. And my writing has also evolved. I'm a guest contributor for the Armenian Weekly newspaper.
That's
So
great.
it gives me another excuse of something to post and something to put on my website. So
Yes.
the goal is to collect email addresses so that you can send out these newsletters.
Hmm.
And now this is time consuming,
Yeah,
but again, for me, I enjoy it because
yeah.
I enjoy writing that monthly blurb, whether it's a blog or an article or whatever else. And then I always give kudos to other writers,
Hmm.
whatever it might be, and related to maybe the article I wrote about, whatever that is, and putting that out there. And so the other thing I do is offer a free signed book for people, a raffle. It's a raffle
Yeah.
to sign up for the newsletter. And so I'll pick them randomly. So for different days. So for in January, I print them and I file them in order of chronological order. And I picked number 24 because we started 2024. And so that December I did number 12.
Uh-huh.
So I'll come up with something, but in my way, that's kind of a fair way of
Yeah,
doing it, and
yeah.
it's not predictable. And so I've been able to increase my list, my mailing list that way.
Mhm.
And I'm having a lot of fun with it. So again,
Yeah.
for me, it fits what I enjoy doing. So it
And
doesn't feel grueling.
yeah, and people can take these different ideas and kind of fit them into their own what would work for them. So again, I
Right.
think that's wonderful that you've shared all of this that you're doing. So exciting to have your paperback coming out soon, and we will definitely be posting about that on the website. And so what is your next event? Like what's coming up?
Oh, well, this is very exciting. And I also want to tell you, let me give you my website so that
Yes.
if anybody wants a copy of the newsletter and see how I'm marketing, please feel free.
And
I
we'll
don't know
put
the
that
magic.
across the screen.
Yeah, I don't know the magic number yet for February, but you will be put in the drawing. Um, so the website is www.victoriawaterman.net.
Mhm. And we will
Okay.
definitely put that on the screen so everybody can see it and whenever we get this video posted.
Okay. So the most exciting event coming up is something I'm planning in April. And I am leveraging a local broadcast anchor, Kim Kalunian, who is Armenian. And I'm tapping into her to moderate a conversation about past, present, future of Armenian literature.
Wow.
And there will be three women authors. The women part really is coincidental, but it's three women authors. So my book represents the past. I have another author. She's from New York. She's coming in for this. She released a book about contemporary Armenians, which is something we need more about as well.
Right.
And the next is the future is an author who is writing children's books going forward. So it's past, present, future of Armenian literature, moderated by a very well-known local news anchor. And I'm very excited. That's in April 21st. Okay. If anybody's near Providence, Rhode Island, join us.
And we'll definitely put that up on the website too, and make an announcement about that whenever it gets closer for anybody that's, like you said, in the local area, that they could come out and check it out.
Right.
Well, that's wonderful. Go ahead.
No, I was saying the other thing that I haven't done yet, but I'd like to, is a interview similar to this that will live on forever online, a book talk that I can share also with people. So I haven't done that yet. I've had little dribs and drabs recorded here and there, but not a full out video book talk, but to come.
And we need to do that again too. We should do that again, because I would love for you to be able to share like maybe a little excerpt from the book that one of your favorite pieces or whatever. But we'll do that again soon.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, Victoria. And we're excited for the paperback release. And again, everyone, so you can see the cover again. There it is. Whoops. Come on. Sometimes it won't cooperate.
We'll have to talk about the story of the cover next time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's I'm in the process of getting my green screen fixed, so next time it'll show up better. But anyway, definitely people go out and check it out. The book, it's incredible. It's Who She Left Behind by Victoria. Is it? I want to say Atamian. That's what I thought it was. Atamian Waterman. Please check it out. It's a wonderful story. And again, thank you so much for being on the show today.
All right. Thank you.
This is Dee Marley at History Bards, and everyone have a great day. Keep making history and keep listening.